going?
Yeah, happy days.
Good.
Can we go through some bands? What they mean to us?
Go on.
Who should we start with?
I don't mind. You can make a start.
So I think I was first at a parents' friend's party upstairs when I heard The Cure, and immediately fell in love with Boys Don't Cry. They did that singles album, Standing on the Beach, I think, and every track on it was utterly brilliant. I remember going over to France on the French exchange, and this must have been 87, and Just Like Heaven was playing, and I remember thinking, this is really good, and it's not on that album.
Spinning on that dizzy edge, I kissed her face, I kissed her head, I dreamed of all the different ways I had to make her glow. Why are you so far away? She said, why won't you ever know that I'm in love with you? That I'm in love with you. You, soft and lonely, lost and lonely, you, strangers, angels, dancing in the deepest ocean. You're drifting in the water, you're just like a dream.
They're certainly a contender for one of my favourite bands of all time, hands down. It's that whole thing of constantly evolving and being interested and doing different things and
having fun. I've not seen a Cure video that hasn't made me laugh inwardly or outwardly, I think.
But I think that was the other thing, I think, with The Cure, was that because they had that Tim Pope thing with the film director and they did all the music videos, and that's something that we've, I think, taken interest in with
absolutely.
Where you have fun with it, you promote the visual side of it, and it becomes another dimension to what you're producing.
Yeah, I mean, without wanting to get too involved, it's an artistic experience rather than just a music experience, if such a thing can exist. But yeah, the whole thing is bigger than that. It should encompass other ideas. So if somebody else can visualize what you're singing about or droning about, in my case, then that's a good thing, and it should be welcomed and celebrated. I think that's really good. And yeah, you're right, The Cure absolutely do that. For me, I think as a band, I've just always been attracted to Robert Smith's vocal. It's really fascinated me, that style. And I can remember hearing on the radio and just thinking, yeah, okay, I like that. It's not doing the same thing. It's not even necessarily the same all the time. It's certainly not, for me, it doesn't feel like it comes from a classical place or from any kind of, it's just him. And it's very unique and individual. You know, it's one of those voices that you can hear anywhere. And I'm not trying to emulate that necessarily, but I'd love to be thinking, okay, that is a voice, or mine is a voice that can be heard as a voice that is, is a unique thing. It
all goes in the pot, though, doesn't it? You just throw that in there, nice healthy slice of that.
Yeah.
It's, and they were a really good contender. I think the whole thing with bass back in the 80s was the bass player was always a cool feature within the band, and I think The Cure is certainly a good example of that.
Suddenly I stop.
So the cult for me was it was the Sound of Music, was the record shop in Marlborough, and I had Revolution as a double, like a twin 7-inch single pack, and that was my introduction to the cult.
I think I bought Rain as the first thing, and then bought Love pretty much immediately after buying the single. And that as an album is just incredible. Nobody else was doing that at that point in time. I mean, subsequently I've listened to it, and you talk about genre and influence, and you can hear loads from the sort of 60s and 70s that are influencing that record, you know, hugely. But it was so fresh for me at the time, and I don't think there's a single track on there that didn't speak to me in some way and is weak. It all works as an album. It's just great. I really, really enjoyed it, and I still really enjoy playing those songs.
The sparkle in your eyes keeps me alive, and the sparkle in your eyes keeps me alive, keeps me alive.
I think I saw them in Hammersmith on the Love Tour as one of the first bands I saw live, and again, just nobody else was listening to that. The person who introduced me to the album was another person who was absolutely othered in school, and this is probably pre-sixth form for me. This is, and you know, and they weren't on anybody's radar. God knows where he's gone now, but yeah, refused to kowtow to anybody's kind of this is how we do it. You know, this is the formula for getting into music. This is what's cool, and just bought that, introduced me to it, and I just went, yeah, that's a great album. Yeah, that is something that I love, because it was different, and nobody else was listening to it. Everybody else was listening to Iron Maiden.
Revolution, 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 yeah.
What draws me to the genre is the theatre of it. Certainly in the 80s, or you know, if you go back to 79 Bauhaus and that kind of goth of Bela Lugosi, it's, you know, it wasn't taking itself too seriously. No. I really don't believe that they were getting into that whole zone of we are actually vampires. I don't believe that that's where Bauhaus were going. I think they were just going, this is fun, this is atmospheric, this is what we can do with it. Maybe I'm wrong. But certainly that theatre of it, let's recognise that, you know, everything's a performative opportunity. And music, absolutely, you don't necessarily have to take yourself too seriously.
Well, the ghost is dead. Undead, undead, undead. Undead, undead, undead.
I bought Burning from the Inside. I don't know, I was on a trip to Wales. Why did I buy this? I don't know why I was in Wales, but anyway, I bought Burning from the Inside, The Story of the Clash, and I can't remember something else.
Was that back in the day, or was that earlier?
It was, I'm trying to work out when it was. I'd have been, God knows. It's later than its release. And I bought it largely because it was cheap and I liked the cover, you know, and I was just there going, oh, I think I'm going to like this.
Yeah.
This will be the right kind of thing, you know. So it was musical purchased largely through ignorance than anything else.
Yeah.
And then I just listened to it and it was wonderful and it was unconventional. And I know that, you know, if you listen to the critics or if you read the critics, it won't certainly be the album that stands out as this has got loads of critical acclaim. You know, Peter Murphy's got a chest infection and struggling with his voice. He's not really there yet. There's so much influence on that record and you can hear it. You know, you can hear them taking all sorts of things, or I could hear them taking all sorts of things, and it just works for me, just spoke to me. And then I got into that band courtesy.
See, Peter Murphy was on the soundtrack of Demons 2, which I liked. And I remember loving Rockets, but I couldn't quite remember Bauhaus. And when we were starting out, I think this might have even been before you joined the band. I remember there was this guy, he's now a vicar, but he came down, he was a lot older than us. I mean, we were 16, he was 22. And he said, I've got this arrangement of Bela Lugosi's Dead, and we didn't know the song. And I've changed the key for you. I mean, God, looking back now, I don't understand why he changed the key, because it would have been fine as it was. But and we did that, and then off the back of that, there was a girl in our year who was a massive Bauhaus fan, and she was like doing his tapes. So the moment you so much as mentioned Bauhaus, I don't even think you finished the word. She'd be around with a compilation tape, and you need to get this. I had the BBC Sessions album. Which had Party of the First Part on it, which wasn't on all the vinyl pressings of, I forget, was it Mast or the other one? But Sky's Gone Out, sorry.
Sky's Gone Out,
But yeah, again, it was that whole devouring thing and just, wanting it all, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those bands. They were a band for me that, look at all of this. It's experimental, and it's bringing all these other things in.
I like them all now. I mean, I liked them back in the day, but I think now I think they're utterly brilliant, because they're so much cleverer than a lot of other bands. Their influences are so, that aren't always as obvious.
I think I have a better understanding of what they're trying to do now.
Definitely.
I couldn't sort of articulate that back then. And like I said, I sort of bought it because I liked the album cover and because it was cheap. And also it was in a section of records which were classed as alternative, and that's where I decided I'd put myself, but that was one of those lucky things, and I'm just really glad that I did that.
1, 2, 3, 4. So with reference to people like Joy Division and Siouxsie and the Banshees, they were kind of people who, for me, I was aware of, but they were just that kind of slightly the kids who were 2 or 3 years above us at school would have been into. Yeah. And they were very much artists that I had records by, but didn't really kind of start exploring them until much later, because our era was very much around the Sisters and the Cure and people like that. I don't know why Bauhaus slipped through the net and the other bands were slightly caught for a while before they caught up, but they certainly did catch up. And
I think you're always going to get that. I mean, it's interesting that sort of new wave crossover from punk and into new wave, and new wave becoming different little pigeonholed genres. I think, there are certain things where you listen and go, Siouxsie for me is a classic one. Really, I missed out on Siouxsie and the Banshees, but that again really, really speaks to me, and that's guitar work that speaks to me, and I'm really, really interested in. Vocally, it's just fantastic. And obviously, I'm not going to be emulating Siouxsie anytime soon. And it's strange how it goes through. I mean, that's something that my daughter is fascinated by. She's a really big fan from nowhere, not from an introduction by me, because I came to that quite late. I think, like you were saying, there's certain people that you just miss, or they slip through the net and then you come to it later, but you can still appreciate what makes it a genre, maybe. When
you're younger, you kind of fairly poor, so you can only buy X amount of records, so you're aware of people. But it's like, if I had more money, I would have been buying their records, but it didn't happen. I mean, I think I had the one single by Siouxsie and the Banshees,
and you haven't got the on-demand world that you've got now as well. I think about some of the local record shops that I've been into, which double as electrical suppliers and things like that. You know, one box of records at the back, and you flip through it, and that's what you're going to get. That's where your influence is, and you've got to kind of listen, and you've got to talk to other people.
Well, there were people like Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, and Salvation that I'd heard of, but I'd never ever seen the records anywhere. So they just were never going to happen. And it's only probably in the last few years that I've checked them out and go, oh yeah, this is really good as well. But at the time, it was like they weren't stocking them in Wiltshire. So.
No.
Moonchild. Lower me down. Moonchild. Lower me down. Moonchild. Lower me down. Moonchild. Lower me down.
The Field of the Nephilim was through Greg in the band. He introduced me to them, and I just remember they were just immediately like, yeah, this is brilliant. And it was funny when we came to do Moonchild, I just thought, you know, that's not going to work. To me, they were a band who, I think back in the day, we probably didn't have the musical skills to do their music any sort of justice.
All the equipment.
A
bit of both.
I always remember Nod had the biggest drum kit in the world, didn't he? It was like about 89 drums. And was an incredible drummer with it. Which often it's the guy with 3 drums that's brilliant, and the guy with loads is not so good.
No, in this case, all the gear and all the ideas. Totally.
But that was just, again, that was exactly the right moment to be into that band. You know, that was around sort of between Elysium and the Nephilim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Got those in the wrong order, but...
Should have stayed at home yesterday. Words can't describe the feeling and the way you lie. These games you play, it's gonna end in more tears someday. I know the game. Should have faded our dreams away.
OMD was interesting because I remember them being on Top of the Pops in 81 and not really getting them. And I think that was something that, for me, came out of lockdown. And that was sort of thinking slightly wider.
I think that there's a lot of 80s electronica that wasn't necessarily my scene. You know, little bits and pieces that I might have picked up on, I don't know, now 2 or 3. And kind of gone, oh, okay, and not really thought about it much more than that, because I don't think I really had any kind of musical awakening until probably really until we started thinking about bands and those kinds of things. But yeah,
same with Kraftwerk.
Totally.
Yeah, we were going to do the model, and we didn't for whatever reason. We got as far as learning it, and then it never happened.
It didn't happen. Yeah,
but it was just and I think there's stuff like. Was it the Weeknd song "Blinded by the Lights"?
Yeah.
Was just something where you hear like a darkness in it, and you think, yeah, this ties in, but maybe people haven't made the connection, so let's help them make the connection.
I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love, baby. I'm going through withdrawals. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch, baby. Since it is cold and empty, no one around to judge me. I can't see clear, now you're gone. Ooh, I'm blinded by the light. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch.
I came to the Sisters through Floodland. Floodland was I'd say one of the first albums I bought, but certainly one of the first albums of that genre where I actually went, this is really good. I think we've possibly both seen This Corrosion on Top of the Pops, and that had been an amazing thing. I think somebody else had the album and said, you've got to listen to this. And it just blew me away. Again, it was just an accomplishment, I think, in terms of minimalism, maybe, yet at the same time, massive production values. But, the songs themselves are not over complex. But I don't know, something in that spoke to me. The theatricality of it, the live experience, watching that Top of the Pops live experience. And then from there, just actually looking back and going to First and Last Norways, and then discovering that there's a whole world of stuff that never even made it to albums, and just a collection of B-sides now, or a collection of rarities now. Really, really interesting. And from that, getting into Wayne Hussey's guitar style, listening to that and going, okay, there's something here that's kind of multi-layered and interesting, and it chimes with my interest in folk music, even though it's not necessarily folky, but there's a tonal quality to it that felt like that. Just couldn't get enough of it, and still can't get enough of it. I listen again back to those records and think, okay, there's so much going on here. There's and such a single-minded focus, and that's Eldritch, but you can see that it comes across. This is what I am trying to present. This is what I'm trying to do.
Give me the ring, kiss and toe. Give me something that I missed. I have to hold wild and what it seems. Kill the king where love is the law, and the will turn round. Give me a dream, child, and do you hear me call? On the lawn and on the level, still on the floor. Sing, dream, child, and do you hear it all? Sing.
It was that whole thing, I think, of devouring music at the time, but it came through Top of the Pops, and if you're not, if you're below a certain age, you won't get what a huge deal that was. And I'll never forget seeing This Corrosion. That was my first introduction to the Sisters. I didn't know about the history because we were possibly a little bit too young.
Yeah. Totally.
But it was massive, and it was like you had the kids who were into kind of hard rock stuff, and you had the kids who were into indie, and this was somewhere else. And it was amazing, and it was very, as you said, very, very theatrical. But it was getting them kind of that whole thing of going through back catalogues, and we had I think it was a sixth form trip to Bath where we found Rival Records, and we all went out and we were buying, I think between us, we bought every single 12-inch single there was from Alice, and all the kind of pre First and Last Norway stuff. But it was huge.
Hey now, sing this corrosion to me. Hey now, sing this corrosion to me. Hey now, sing this corrosion to me. Hey now, sing.
I guess it leads on to the other half of it was them going on and doing the Mission, and that was very much the era that we were in. So, we didn't do anything by them for Wiltshire Gothic, but All About Eve were, links in with that as well.
Yeah, see, I'd heard the Mission before, but I hadn't really made the connection,
right.
And that's the thing. I think I'd heard First Chapter, and I think, and then really got into that. I made that sort of okay. Now I can see the connection between these bands, and there's an overlap. Let's go back and revisit, and I think that was really, really worthwhile thing to do and an enjoyable thing to do, because again, it keeps your own influences fresh. You sort of go, okay.
But it was also, I think they were one of the bands where the influences became a thing. So that was why we were walking around with Leonard Cohen records, and I think they were referencing the Stooges, Iggy Pop and the Stooges. Yeah. So that became a thing where you know, it's our sixth form, we're listening to I'm Bored by Iggy Pop, and that wasn't our era, but it was our thing, you know, and walking around with that Velvet Underground album, and
completely.
You know, again, it was, you know, that was a couple of generations, you know, later, but it was very much, we were owning those records.
Yeah, absolutely, and a space where, I don't know, I don't feel like anybody else at the time, and you know that's an unfair generalisation probably, but it didn't feel like anybody else at the time was sort of delving into the influences of the music that they were listening to, and I know that we were, and I know that the people we were spending time with were, you know, fascinated by that, and yeah, so you suddenly got this, you know, a decade or 2 decades of earlier music where you go, right, okay, yeah, now I see what you're trying to do. It's not just your own individual artistic expression, but it's about you're bringing something forward from the past, which I think is quite interesting.
Love hears the wings of a butterfly on a wheel. Love hears the wings of a butterfly on a wheel. Love hears the wings of a butterfly on a wheel. Love hears the wings of a butterfly on a wheel.
When we did the Wiltshire Gothic session, we needed a generator. We went to the generator guy, and he said, oh, you know, you obviously, we didn't look like we were builders. So he said, you know, what's the band called? And we told him, and when we came back, he'd been on YouTube, he checked us out, and he said, oh, you guys sound like Depeche Mode. And at the same time, we just recorded something that didn't sound like that. It sounded like, you know, a completely different space. Yeah. And then whatever life there is after this will be a third way, you know, and then beyond that will be somewhere else. And it's the Bowie thing, isn't it? It's the reinvention, and it's the just keeping things interesting for yourself.
Absolutely.